I'm Dr. Madeline Hawksford.
And I'm Nathan Keller.
And today you are joining us for another episode of the Medicine and Machine Learning podcast. Joining us today is Dr. Robert Durichen. He leads the machine learning analytics team at Arcturis Data, an Oxford-based company specializing in real-world evidence. He oversees a group of machine learning researchers, data scientists, and bioinformaticians who develop machine learning methods for processing and analyzing large-scale electronic health record data. His current research focuses on using natural language processing, including small and large language models, to enrich EHR datasets from unstructured notes and improve quality through better standardization techniques.
With over 15 years of experience, Dr. Durichen has worked in various healthcare and consumer domains, including remote patient monitoring, robotic radiotherapy, and affect recognition for leading companies such as Bosch and Philips. He earned his PhD in Lübeck, Germany, and is also a busy father of 3 wonderful young children.
Today's episode is also the first episode in which Nathan Keller is joining us. He's a first-year medical student at the University of Minnesota, and we're so excited that he's joining us as a host of the Medicine and Machine Learning podcast.
All right, so we're here with Dr. Durichen. Thank you so much for joining us today. Dr. Durichen has a very impressive career with over 15 years of experience in various healthcare and consumer domains, and right now, he is the current head of machine learning analytics at Arcturis. So, Dr. Durichen, do you want to give us a brief background for yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So, thanks for the chance to be on the show here. So, as said, so currently leading here at Arcturis Data, the machine learning analytics team. I came into this field basically actually having a background a little bit more in the classical engineering domain, over time with a focus on applications within the medical field, so to say. And when I was doing my master thesis, I was having the pleasure to do my master thesis at Philips Research Center in the Netherlands. So, and I was having the chance to work in this very nice project, like where we were building or aiming to build an intelligent needle. So, and this was for me the kind of first time when I was suddenly kind of exposed to machine learning by a colleague. So, and I still know the moment when like one of my colleagues at the time basically showed me a principal component analysis. So this is like a very simple, basic machine learning analysis, so nothing fancy, but I was completely blown away, like with what you can do with this and how kind of machine learning use of data can kind of like have an impact of these kind of on these kind of products. So yes, so and then basically after that, I decided, I want to go further into the field of machine learning connected with medical applications. So I started to do my PhD at the University of Lübeck in Germany. So, and I had the chance to work on topics like robotic motion compensation. So basically doing kind of machine learning forecasting for respiratory motion compensation, and also had the chance to join the University of Oxford as a part-time researcher, where I was working in the computational health informatics lab with Professor David Clifton, and basically where I was working in the field of patient monitoring. So this was really interesting, really fascinating at the time. Yeah, and after that, basically moved a bit around within the industry. As you said, also I was working for a while in the consumer, let's say more medical consumer-like area. So I had the chance to join Bosch, the company. So Bosch, most likely known as more kind of a automotive supplier or dishwasher, fridge kind of company, but let's say a little bit the kind of smaller niche area. Actually, they have also a niche medical area, which many people don't know, and also actually we are building a lot of this kind of small, clever sensors which we have in our smartphones or smartwatches. So I had the chance to kind of work on topics like machine learning for fall detection for elderly, effect recognition, so stress detection of people, something like this. So in smartwatches, so very cool and kind of nice topics. So like this a lot. But after a while, basically, I realized, if you're working in such kind of like automotive focused company, you're getting sucked into the automotive topics. So I think there are definitely, like, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of kind of very interesting topics in the automotive field, but basically I wanted to go back to more kind of more medical healthcare related topics. So, and I got the chance to join the previous company from Arcturis in Oxford. So basically I moved to UK and could join here this, and now leading the machine learning healthcare team or the machine learning analytics teams since a couple of years.
Are you joining us from the UK today?
At the moment, actually, I'm based in Germany. So I'm traveling between Germany and UK all the time. So it's nice.
Yeah, that's really cool. You have a lot of experience working in this field, and it's very impressive what you've achieved so far. So we can jump a little bit into Arcturis. So Arcturis uses real-world data to support the discovery and development of new medicines. This was on your website. We translate patient pathways into real-world evidence and insights to improve patient outcomes, advance research, and inform industry policy. So that's sort of a broad description of what you're working on. But would you be able to describe a little bit more in detail for us?
Definitely. Yeah, basically Arcturis Data, I describe it all the time like we are a small, medium-sized kind of startup company. So we are a real-world evidence company. So basically what we are doing, we have access to longitudinal secondary care patient records, so basically data from hospital data from NHS trust hospitals. So, and we have at the moment access to roughly or to 12 million patient records. And we get access via our basically what we are calling strategic research agreements. So we have with the different hospitals research agreements so that we can request anonymized longitudinal patient data. And the interesting thing here about this is that we can request like really deep longitudinal data. So like all kind of different type of data, not only the kind of, let's say, the high level information about demographics, diagnosis, procedures, but also going down to unstructured patient notes, images, all the kind of further kind of detailed kind of, for example, oncology data as well. So which gives a really kind of good and detailed understanding of the patient. What we are doing within Arcturis is basically we can collect the data from the different trusts, from the different hospitals. We have an in-house data pipeline, so we have a good health informatics team and data engineering team, which process the data, cleans the data, so to kind of transform it into what we are calling to research-ready data. So that with this kind of data, then basically our real-world evidence team. So this is basically a team of MedStats people and epidemiologists primarily can kind of answer and address all kind of different questions from our clients. Our clients, primarily pharma clients, so, and we can support them with all kind of questions like where we can use our real-world insights, real-world tool, and the evidence we generate to support, for example, their kind of drug development. So starting from kind of discussion about like inclusion-exclusion criteria, feasibility of certain kind of trial criteria, performing retrospective cohort studies to kind of give insights into certain kind of patient cohorts, identifying sub-patient groups, and then of course also kind of supporting them with kind of insights into, for example, market launch or something like this. So all kind of aspects where our data might be helpful with.
Very interesting. I have a follow-up question. So
yeah.
Notoriously, drug development takes a really long time. Have your machine learning models been able to kind of expedite this process for pharmaceutical companies?
I mean, I think this is the direction we're definitely going in here. I mean, this is, of course, a very highly regulated space here. So we are working in, and also for a good reason. So of course, we all want to make sure that like this is all highly kind of regulated and quality controlled. So with, for example, part of the work we are doing, in which, where we are very excited about this, is also kind of supporting stuff like external control arm studies. So, where, for example, we can use our real data to supplement an ongoing clinical trial to provide insights. So, for example, that maybe less patients need to be recruited for the trial, so that we can kind of accelerate here, for example, the kind of overall trial, or shorten basically the clinical trial duration. Of course, also with the kind of work, what we can do is basically we did in the past, for example, projects around where we use, for example, machine learning methods to kind of identify subgroups of patients, so which maybe have a higher risk of certain kind of diseases or something like this. So this is, of course, the kind of areas we are kind of looking into this here, and where we can kind of support also our pharma clients. At the moment, to be honest, like a large part of our kind of work within the machine learning space is really focusing on kind of improving data quality all around this. As you can imagine, kind of we are speaking here about real world data, which we're getting directly from the hospitals. So this is messy, noisy. We have a lot of data issues, missing data. So as kind of, if you want to get to a kind of to really high quality results, which you want to kind of also submit, for example, to a regulatory body to kind of support drug development, you need to kind of put a lot of effort in kind of cleaning the data, etc.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you primarily work with pharmaceutical companies, helping them with their studies. Would you be able to describe a typical project from start to finish?
Yeah, happy to, definitely. Of course, there are kind of multiple phases here for a typical project. We, for example, when we're kind of going into discussions with one of our clients, so primarily our real-world evidence teams basically kind of aligns with our clients and kind of identifies, okay, for this specific project, what kind of data is needed, what kind of disease area we are focusing on. Are we in an oncology space or what? So, and then basically we can kind of crystallize what is basically the request. With that, we then can basically kind of go to our hospital trusts, so our trust partners. So, for example, we are working with hospitals like Oxford University Hospital, our hospitals in London area or across England. So, and we can basically request kind of data, longitudinal data from them. So, of course, they all the time, like kind of, we have we have a strategic research agreement with them in place. Basically, once we have a kind of requirements from our pharma clients we can go with these kind of requests to our hospital partners. We can request the data sets which are required, and then of course it depends on the kind of complexity of the data. So, we are requesting. Is the kind of project can it be done with, let's say, like more kind of baseline data, prescription, medical procedures, demographics, or do we need to kind of request specific data items like images or unstructured nodes to get kind of specific biomarkers, for example, which are maybe key for a certain project out? So, and then basically, once we get the raw data in, we have in-house a data engineering team, a health informatics teams, and also us as the ML team, kind of processing the data, standardizing it, so to kind of get it into the kind of what we are saying research ready state, so that you also do, for example, kind of quality checks, controls. Because to be honest, very often when you request the first time a data set from your hospital, there's a high chance that something is missing, something is wrong. So I think this is the beauty about kind of the work we are doing, because like we have a very close connection with our hospitals. We have also contact to clinicians in the hospital. So basically, compared to other data sets which you can request and use, where you get what you have. But with us, we basically can quality control the data. We see what are the kind of guidelines, what things should have been prescribed. If they are not present, we can go back, discuss with the trust, figure out, is there something missing? So is there something maybe differently recorded, which we have missed, so that we can kind of improve, iterate on the data quality until it's really ready for when we're kind of doing the analysis that we kind of then basically do for our clients, and when we can hand it over to our customers in form of a report. We are not allowed as a company to share patient personal data with our clients. So it's over time, we only share insights about patient groups, so specific disease areas. So basically, that is what we're doing here.
No doubt taking measures to protect patient privacy, it sounds like. So that's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we have multiple kind of precaution measurements in place at multiple stages. So to make sure also, for example, simple things like we are working together with our engineering team when raw data, so to say, comes in, but we make sure that there is no personal identifiable information in there. So that basically there's of course kind of the de-anonymization on the trust side happening, but of course that can be all the time happening something, certain names missing or not. Yeah.
So does that involve manually looking through all the data to make sure that there's no patient identified information?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. I mean, this is exactly like where, let's say, the machine learning aspects coming in here, like especially like where we are focusing on the last kind of time recently. So basically, to kind of get data in from different sources, standardize it, and kind of improve the quality is a kind of tedious job. So, and there's kind of, if you really want to scale this up, and we are kind of continuously onboarding more trusts. We are getting more strategic research agreements with different trusts kind of signed, so that we have a better coverage across the UK. So you can't do this all manually. So, and of course, there are different kind of steps we are taking along the way. So, for example, for the anonymization, we are working in-house on algorithms to kind of identify or spot patient names, NHS patient numbers, something like this, addresses, etc. But of course, also one area where we are working on is, for example, also on data quality improvement or data standardization, because you can easily imagine simple case where are for a certain kind of laboratory measurements, like simple thing like hemoglobin measurements or something like this, or blood pressure measurement, there are so many ways of writing these things down. So you get over like this kind of whole spectrum of kind of different kind of ways of spelling certain things or something like this, and this across all the data we are getting in here. So, and of course, like one aspect is you're kind of using machine learning models to support the mapping process, basically from what we're calling the raw data to standardized medical concepts. So, for example, ICD-10 codes, which are used for diagnosis codes. I mean, generally, diagnosis in general are kind of well recorded. But for example, like SNOMED codes for something like laboratory test names, medication names, etc., so that we can improve in the first step when kind of the data quality in general by kind of converting everything to a kind of standardized coding system. Then we can also combine the different data from the different trusts, so that we have a kind of joint data set which we can use for further analysis.
I have a question, and it's kind of relating to these data sets you're working with. So as a clinician, I run into a lot of times missing and incomplete data. You're talking about cleaning up data. A lot of times I run into, a patient has received medical care in multiple different hospital systems. So we're missing data from a certain year to a certain year. And then, you're missing a pretty significant piece of the patient's story. Do you guys find that you run into the missing data problem frequently?
I mean, definitely. I mean, this is a challenge which we are facing also on various kind of scales here. So of course, at the moment, the scenario you described, so it's still we are working on kind of, for example, how we can track, for example, patients across different hospitals. So I think this is also a challenge we are facing at the moment, and we can't do or deal with at the moment. But for example, the scenarios what we are seeing also that still a lot of the interesting data which we need, for example, certain specific biomarkers for kind of, for example, oncology projects are still not recorded kind of regular in structured tabular real world data. So a lot of this information are still recorded in different kind of unstructured patient notes, so free text reports, so discharge letters, pathology notes, image reports, etc. So and it's and very often kind of, especially kind of these data items are the kind of the interesting kind of items you want to have. So and this can be very easily kind of be the kind of 2-3 specific biomarkers that can be easily the kind of go no-go decision for a kind of research project. So either you have it or kept it or not. So then it's also kind of a lot of our work, what we are doing at Arcturis is kind of trying ways to extract these data items so that we can enrich our data sets, so to say, and improve the data quality overall, so that we have a real full picture of the patient, so to say.
Yeah, that's exactly what clinicians are trying to do too, is get the whole picture.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's work in progress, and I mean, we work now with this type of data since multiple years. And I mean, we are still seeing so many kind of on a day-to-day basis, we are running in so many kind of different kind of small issues and things you certain things that you can't kind of imagine it. I remember, for example, this one kind of scenario where we kind of requested a patient data set. So, and we were wondering why, for example, something simple and straightforward like smoking status was not really recorded. So it's kind of when, because we have the access to the specific hospital, we could go back to a consultant in the hospital and request how do you record actually something like the smoking status? I mean, this should be recorded here. What's going on here? And then they're basically, actually, just from a practical point of view, the information about where you enter the smoking status is normally on the second tab of on your screen. So when no one bothers moving over there, so basically you're putting an asterisk to the name of the patient if he's a smoker or not. So and these kind of insights, it's kind of it's hard to get. So
you've touched on an issue that I have found to be challenging as a young physician. Is the electronic health record is becoming vastly more complicated as we are developing these new features to work with. I work with Epic primarily, just great electronic health record, no complaints, but finding certain things, different tabs is very challenging.
Exactly. Yeah. So I can definitely relate to this. So I mean, we are primarily, most of our trust we're working with also either Epic or Cerner users. So it's tricky sometimes. Yeah. And I mean, also, it's not only, I think, challenging for the clinicians using the electronic healthcare record system, but also when we are speaking about, we are primarily speaking with a data warehouse team at the trust. So, and when we are requesting certain data items, I mean, it's even for them sometimes challenging to understand, where certain data is located, where is it stored in which kind of tables, if you are kind of requesting certain data items. So it's also a learning process we are going through with the trust, to kind of unravel all kind of details, where to find certain things.
Yeah.
Interesting, but challenging.
Yeah, it's cool because you seem like you, in some ways, you can alert the hospital to maybe some inconsistencies that they have in their own charting, and maybe even improving the charting system itself. but I would love to touch on sort of the development of the broader field of machine learning and natural language processing. So in November of 2022, I believe, ChatGPT was released, and it sort of turned on everybody in the world to, oh my gosh, this AI thing is actually very interesting, and it's starting to get more powerful. So after then, the field has been continuously gaining more traction and more technological advancement. Would you be able to highlight how your work has changed throughout that time and how Arcturis has changed as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And I think the whole field since then, I think, is like moving so rapidly, and I think also to the conferences where I've been, etc. So I mean, everyone is speaking about it and like what kind of implications it can have for our field. So I think there's definitely a lot of potential. So I think in general, I think there's kind of, I almost see it kind of two sides on it. So I think we have this kind of now really kind of powerful tools and methods, and they are kind of definitely great. We have a lot of potential. But I think also you need to be careful sometimes, like when to use what. So for example, there were also like recently I just saw another benchmarking publication where they kind of used like a different large language models, GPT-3, 4, etc., and compared it to, let's say, more classical NLP methods. I mean, classical, I mean like classical BERT methods, which are basically small language models. So we are just 2018, so we are not that old. But let's say that this is the kind of baseline at the moment. And basically also these kind of studies revealed, so for example, for some baseline tasks, like for example, what we are doing, named entity recognition, so extracting biomarkers from unstructured text, etc. So this kind of still can be done with kind of smaller methods, small language models, cheaper and more accurately compared to these kind of large language models. So, and I think like especially if you take into account so that you like in these kind of smaller language models, we are speaking kind of, we have millions of parameters. GPT-4 has 1.7 trillion parameters. So just kind of the different kind of scale of kind of how big these models are, how much kind of resource power you need to run them. So if you want to kind of like the like task what we are doing, kind of extract kind of tumor stages across 100,000 millions of oncology patients. I mean, it can be like I wouldn't go down with a GPT-4 model at the moment for this kind of task here. Additionally, I mean, there are also kind of all kind of concerns, kind of IG concerns, like is the trust or kind of can you share really a patient report with a kind of web APIs or discussions? So some hospitals feel more or less comfortable about this. So I think there are a lot of kind of points around here. But I mean, in general, I think there are also a lot of very interesting applications coming up on the radar with these methods. And I think, so I think we do kind of balance between like, okay, what it can do, what maybe areas where you should still kind of consider the classical methods, but I mean, there are a lot of new areas where I think you can suddenly do things which you thought previously haven't been possible. And maybe when I look, for example, into my field or the field where we are working with real world data, I think things which suddenly pop up is, for example, so we are also discussing internally about things like prompt-based kind of analytics. So like, of course, we have also in-house clinicians also, or who maybe like can't code SQL or something like this. So, and you have your data set, and suddenly kind of you can kind of just ask a simple question in my data set: how many patients do I have with condition X and who got treated with Y? So something like this, and suddenly you get a number out, and which makes sense. So things which weren't previously possible. So I think this is definitely very excited, or this is definitely very exciting, I think, from my point of view. And yeah. and there are also, I think, a lot of our applications.
Yeah.
And a lot of that work that you're talking about, like combing through the records and pulling out, the right patients for a study, for a lot of history has been done manually. And as a former medical student and a medical student, it ends up being those of us a little bit lower on the totem pole who are doing kind of the grunt work of those sort of tasks in research. And so happy to hear that machine learning might be taking care of that for us.
Definitely. I think there's a lot of potential to kind of certain aspects of the work kind of getting removed and getting automized.
Hopefully leaving us to do higher order tasks instead of getting rid of our job altogether.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not one of the persons who I will thinks about kind of replacing people. I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think these kind of methods, like this GPT method or model, I mean, for me, it's almost kind of like enhancing the capabilities of clinicians, of programmers, on everyone. So it's kind of, I have a feeling over time, like it feels for me like we are now at this at the stage, like when was it, like 10 years ago, when the kind of first deep learning image model came out, and then suddenly the whole radiology field was revolutionized, and some also machine learning folks predicted, okay, you shouldn't invest in training radiologists, we don't need them here because they have machine learning methods. Like, I don't think that is the case, but I think it's kind of really kind of, we see like how we can enhance kind of the capabilities and like giving radiologists time back, not only looking at kind of images, but also kind of time back and work with the patients.
So you're saying AI will never replace doctors?
I'm never say never. It's a good point, but I wouldn't say that. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, this is not kind of the work we are doing here. So I think for me, it's all the time kind of, okay, how can we get more productive? How can we kind of, like, for example, like with this kind of GPT models at the moment, or this kind of large language. With these large language models at the moment, there's a lot of kind of discussion, for example, around kind of, can they be used to record, for example, automatically the kind of patient-doctor conversations, so to do automatic kind of note-taking, etc. And I mean, I think these are the kind of chances we have at the moment. So kind of just kind of relieve doctors from these kind of burdening tasks, kind of giving them time back. And I think this is not only kind of on the kind of doctoral side, but also I think when I look into my day-to-day work, it's kind of the way how I program or how my team programs. I mean, it's changed, and it's kind of we are doing certain things just quicker, and that's great.
Yeah, and it's really cool that there's people like you who are behind the scenes, but you're making so many physicians' lives better. You're making so many patients' lives better. I know you mentioned the AI scribe application, and I've seen that before, rotating through a clinic where the doctor just walks in and sets his phone on the table, presses the record, and it makes a note for him. I think there's probably a long way to go with that, but it's really cool direction. So we can dive a little bit more into what Arcturis has created, Arctex. So according to your website, Arctex is our sophisticated NLP model designed to cater to a diverse array of clinical reports. It's an innovative solution that empowers real-world evidence studies by seamlessly automating the extraction of biomarkers and other disease-specific data at scale. Would you be able to tell us more about Arctex and why you're excited about it?
Basically, Arctex is now our natural language processing model, and which is basically touching base on what we discussed before. So, like, this is our approach at the moment to extract information we need for our real-world evidence studies from unstructured text. And maybe going a bit into the detail, and we are still kind of we are basically facing various different challenges when we are working with these trusts. Like each hospital we are working with kind of comes, or let's say, each hospital system basically have a kind of different kind of level of kind of what we are kind of willing to share, what we can share. For example, when we just look, for example, at unstructured notes. So some hospital systems or some hospitals basically are fine with redacting the report, removing all kind of patient identifiable information on their side, and basically they have all the IG in place to do this, send the text over to us on our side. Other hospitals basically are a little more kind of on the kind of reluctant side, not willing to do this. So basically, we wanted to develop a tool which we can use on our side to extract information from reports which we have received here, like redacted reports, but also a tool which we can easily deploy at the trust side to extract directly information at the source. So, and also especially when you think about the reduction process, I mean, each hospital system uses a different tool for this, where there are different standards. So, I mean, normally, and I think this is the right approach, the tools are kind of more on the conservative side. So if you think this could be potential patient information, you redact it. But when you receive an unstructured report on our side, basically, and you look into this kind of report, you see okay, a clear sentence like the tumor stage is, and then redact it. Basically, you say,
unhelpful.
Yeah, there's no way that here suddenly Mike Miller shows up. So, but it's still redacted. So exactly for these kind of scenarios, we have developed Arctex, so our Arcturis text enrichment and extraction tool. And this also takes into account the limitations, for example, the kind of compute limitations sometimes the trusts are facing with. So basically, you can't assume that every hospital system has a kind of high fancy GPU server system which you can kind of use to run big, large language models. So as I said before, so that's why we basically developed a small scale version. So using still, let's say, a more of a kind of classical small language model system. And we basically optimized this model specifically on the data we have here in the UK. So on NHS data, also for the biomarkers we are specifically interested in. So we use, for example, some kind of nice techniques to do some kind of unsupervised kind of domain adaptation to optimize models for specifically the style of writing a specific hospital has to increase the accuracy. So, and now we are in this kind of phase, so that we are kind of releasing, we are starting a pilot with our trust partners to push out this model to different trusts, basically running a deep dive evaluation with our trust partners. So getting clinicians from the different hospitals on board to basically what you also just described, doing a little bit of a kind of manual groundwork, annotating reports for us, that we basically can kind of really validate deeply the accuracy of our model, so that we are confident also for all future projects that we can use it, see if there are kind of issues across different trusts, etc. So that we can of course also further improve this.
Yeah, you mentioned we a lot, and you reference your team, which I love because teamwork makes the dream work. Who all are the members of your team, and what different roles do they play, and what kind of education do they have? Are they primarily computer people? Are they clinicians, or kind of across the board?
It's within my team specifically, I mean, we have primarily machine learning researchers, data scientists. We have also one person who is basically kind of having a bit more kind of medical background, helping us with kind of all the kind of annotations, for example, giving us a kind of background, to support our work we are doing. We have also, I mean, this is just for completeness, we have also a bioinformatician in the team. And basically, but this is touching on a different aspect of work we are doing, because we are also kind of looking into how we can, for example, further enrich our data with genetic information. So where bioinformaticians come into play. But in general, to say, I mean, we are the company Arcturis, we are 50 people around, a bit below 50 people. So we have different teams here, and we are working. I mean, it all depends on working very closely together with our engineering team, our health informatics team, with the real evidence team, and also, of course, what we're calling our trust engagement team, basically the people who are kind of holding the contacts with our different hospital partners. So to have a good direct line to hospitals, which is really key.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. It seems like you have a strong team built up, and 50 employees is no small feat. So
yeah, especially for a startup company.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we'll zoom out a little bit. But do you sort of have a vision for where you see Arcturis moving for the future?
Yeah. I mean, in general, like we are, I think, in the stage basically that we're kind of doing now all the groundwork and kind of getting access to more data and kind of building up this kind of strong database, so that we can kind of support and do more kind of real evidence studies. So give our pharma clients better insights. So I think this is definitely like the kind of work we are doing moving forward, like in the kind of short midterm range. So, but of course, kind of moving forward, I mean, I think the interesting thing is, like, from my perspective, it feels over time there's so much more we can do here. So, I mean, we are just tapping the surface here. So, I mean, we, for example, could use regress also the images, kind of bring the kind of all the kind of information from different kind of image modalities in here. Our aspects, for example, are kind of a lot of genetic sequencing is done. So, for example, how can we, for example, kind of complete the patient picture further, kind of by enriching the data we have, for example, with genetic information. And then I think for example, also like we did already some initial work, for example, kind of machine learning work on kind of identifying kind of interesting sub-patient groups with a specific disease characteristic. So if you think about it, like in a couple of years, when we kind of have further enriched the data sets which we have, so what kind of insights you can kind of derive from this. So basically kind of identifying risk factors, for example, which can really kind of support the drug development. So, and to find new treatments for our patients. So I think there's so much more which we can do, and this is really exciting for me.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it seems like you want to move towards a direction where you're providing people preventative care and more targeted treatment. So that's really beautiful, and it seems like you're working on some really meaningful stuff at Arcturis. But as we wrap up here, we'll do a few life questions, sort of learn more about you, Dr. Durichen. And I know you mentioned that you have 3 young kiddos, but I would love to understand what gives your life meaning.
I mean, as you said, I mean, at the moment, my 3 little kids here keep me really busy. So in all my spare time I have, so it's definitely like, I mean, I'm very motivated by the work we are doing here at Arcturis, but I think, of course, like spending time with my family, spending time with my little one. I just got a 2-month-old baby boy, so it's kind of a nice time.
That's awesome. And in terms of maintaining a work-life balance, a lot of folks that are listening to this podcast are people who are in industry, also in the medical field, and I think we struggle sometimes to maintain work-life balance. Do you have a secret or a piece of advice?
hard question.
It is a hard question.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely, I would say I'm very happy that I have strong support from my partner. I think you need to kind of have a lot of flexibility, kind of, and I'm also happy with like the way kind of we work at Arcturis. Basically, I mean, we have a lot of folks also in the company who also just got kids, have young kids. So basically, there's just an awareness of kind of, okay, sorry, I need to do this quickly right now because I need to pick up the kids, whatever, something like this. But we're keeping this kind of flexibility that you can kind of juggle with different kind of balls you have in your hand. So to say, I think this is really good. I don't have a kind of secret source, but I'm very happy that I get a lot of support from my surrounding, I would say.
That's awesome. Supportive spouse and supportive work environment are like two things that should not be taken for granted. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And sort of wrapping up with artificial intelligence gaining more power and, continually improving exponentially. How would you advise young people during these uncertain times where they don't really know what the job market is going to look like, especially with the improving capabilities of AI?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, it's kind of like, I think this is one of the questions like I also discuss a lot with like around with, like with friends, kind of saying like, okay, what will this mean for our job industry XYZ, something like that. So I think in general, I belong to the person who, like, all to the people who are more on the positive and optimistic side. I think just keep an open mind, see like with these kind of technologies, there will be a lot of new opportunities coming up. It's not clear from the start, so it's not clear for me what it will all change. But I think it's kind of just keeping a positive attitude. Try different things. Don't be afraid of failing. And if it doesn't work, move to the next thing. So it's kind of, I think there will be a lot of opportunities also coming up with these kind of new technologies. So to improve the world. Sorry.
Those are great parting words. There's lots of opportunity and be optimistic. I like that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Durichen. I feel like we both learned so much, and it seems like you have a really amazing thing going on with Arcturis right now. So best of luck to you, and thank you.
It was a pleasure to be here on the show. Thanks.